At approximately 8 p.m. on Friday, February the 11th, 2022, police received a 911 call from a Ricardo Anthony Green. He said he came home and he saw his stepfather, Melvin Weller, on the floor. Melvin was 62 years old and he was lying in a pool of blood and he appeared to be dead. The 911 operator asked Ricardo, "Is anyone else home?" And he said, "Yes, my mother." When the police arrived at Anna Lane in Palm County, they saw the victim where he lay supine on the kitchen floor in a pool of blood with what appeared to be multiple stab wounds and lacerations on his body. In the kitchen where the police found the body, they also noticed there was blood spatter on the kitchen counter, on the kitchen door, and all over the kitchen walls. A couple of knives and meat cleavers were in the sink. Police then discovered the victim's wife, 61-year-old Joan Burke, lying in bed in the master bedroom. She was awake, but she just sat there quietly, her eyes open, and she did not flinch. Joan Burke was then taken to hospital as paramedics removed her husband's body. The police went on to report that Weller's body was covered by a large pool of blood and it covered more than half of the kitchen floor. A 13-gallon garbage can covered in blood had fallen to the floor by the victim's feet. Cleaning tools, including a wet mop cleaner, a broom, and a dustpan, were on the floor next to the victim's body. And when the medical examiner looked at Mr. Weller's body, it concluded there was over 140 stab wounds. He also had a skull fracture caused by a blow from a meat cleaver to the right area of his head. A tied-up plastic bag was located on the kitchen countertop, and the bag contained Joan Burke's blood-stained nightgown. Joan herself had lacerations on the palm of her hands. This is common when stabbing someone. See, Weller himself, he had difficulty walking. He lived with physical difficulties, and whenever he tried to walk, he struggled, so Joan would help him a lot. During the trial, Joan was offered a deal. If she pleads guilty to second-degree murder, then she will serve 35 years. And she was sentenced to 35 years. Now, I looked at the case file, and there's no reason given as to why she did it, so I have requested the interrogation. Hopefully, they'll give it to me. In December 2021, Weller did file for divorce, so this got me thinking, if we try to pontificate our own narrative, if Weller had physical disabilities, then my guess would be that for quite a while, Joan probably took care of him, right? That must have been the arrangement. They've been married for a long time, but two things. Either Joan got sick and tired of trying to take care of him, and she didn't have the heart to leave him. But if you have this kind of mentality, it doesn't just happen. Slowly, you start to distance yourself from that person, right? You don't just one day up and think, I don't want this anymore. It's a long, lengthy mental process where you think, don't know if I want this, can't be bothered to do this, I don't want to take care of him, blah, blah, blah. And then it must have escalated when she found out he filed for divorce. So they must have been going through quite a lot of problems to get to that. So maybe she thought to herself, yeah, I want to leave him, but I can't because nobody else can take care of him. And then when he decides he wants to leave her, maybe she got mad and thought, mate, I've stayed loyal to you even though I don't want this, and now you want to leave? How dare you? 140 stab wounds. Now none of this is factual, I'm merely guessing. But then I think to myself, 140 stab wounds. So again, that is a clear indication this was not a spare of the moment. This was a long-running saga that was mentally in her head, and each incision, she inserts the knife. This is for you cheating on me, I don't know. She inserts it again. This is for you lying to me. Inserts it again. This is for you taking away my freedom. Inserts it again. This is for you for making my life difficult. So on and so forth. Each and every single pain and anger and emotion that she felt toward her husband, it all came out with each incision. If you are going to be, or if you're going to take the life of someone, spare of the moment, it's one gunshot, maybe two. It's one stab, maybe two. and then you regret it. But when you do 140 times, you had a lot to get off your chest. Now, some of you are going to comment and say, well, we don't know if that's true. You're just guessing. Yeah, I know. That's the whole point. The whole point of these stories is for us to try and understand why you would do this, because the psychology, the reasons, the meaning is almost as big as the actual story. And then when I look at crimes like this, I think to myself, it's just sad. Melvin Weller, he didn't choose to be born, but when he was born, 40, 50, 60 years later, his life was ended by the very person he loved. 35 years. You might think that's not enough. You might think she should have had more jail time, but she is in her 60s. So I think the judge took her age into account, like giving someone who's 60 years old a life sentence. I mean, I can kind of get, he probably thinks 35 years old and then she'll probably die by then, you know? Anyway, comment, tell me what you guys think.
Stabbed her husband more than 140 times in Palm Springs, has just reached a plea deal that sends her to prison. Josie Carbonari live in West Palm Beach. Josie, I know you just got out of the courtroom. Can you tell us what happened?
Well, I will say that tensions and emotions were very high in the courtroom. We heard from both sides of the family. They went up and spoke about each person that they remember. The victim, they remembered Marvin Weller and how kind he was, what a good person he was. He was disabled, and they say that after he was stabbed 140 times and was killed by their mother, this was very difficult for a lot of them to take in. So this was a very emotional thing that we heard in the courtroom. Now, Joan Burke, she's 62 years old now. She took a guilty plea of second-degree murder with a weapon. That's a felony, and she'll serve 35 years in prison with a credit of 130 days time served instead of first-degree murder charges that she was originally charged with. Now, both sides said that they agreed for this, considering her age. And towards the end, Joan Burke's defense attorney asked the judge for a furlough, requesting that she be given a week home under house arrest to spend time with her family before spending the 35 years in prison. Burke's daughter took the stand, asking the judge to allow for this closure. However, the state objected the furlough, saying there's evidence that Burke is a flight risk and capable of causing harm to herself. After hearing both arguments, the judge, however, denied the motion, and Burke will be over 90 years old by the time that she gets out of prison.